Matt, you see that, right? That Tom's name says Andrew Query.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
I,
do
I,
now.
I sent him my link, so I think that's
Uh,
possibly what happened.
Kate, can you update Tom's? Thank you. Yeah, because however we enter it from the webinar. Yeah. Okay, good evening, everyone. This will begin the December 1st, 2021 Preservation Board hearing for the City of Rochester. On the agenda tonight, there are a number of items for the pre-meeting prior to getting to actually going over the cases. I'll give a quick overview on what those two items are, and then we'll jump into the first one. So the first one, as shown on the agenda, which is on the city's website, is a reconstruction project that will be going on in the Browns Race Historic District, which is also a local preservation district. The Preservation Board has authority over the private property portions of the preservation district, not the right-of-way. However, there's a team of folks working on this project who are going to present a little bit of information about the project. The Preservation Board members have already seen the information so that they can provide their expertise in terms of how the historic nature of the right-of-way contributes to the preservation district. The second item on the agenda following that is listed as a 39 State Street nomination. The property owner of 39 State Street has made an application to have the property listed on the state and national register. And as part of the city being a certified local government, the manager of zoning has the ability to write a letter in support or comment on the application. So she is exercising her right to use the preservation board as input for that. So at this time, I will turn it over to the team that's going to present the Browns Race right-of-way reconstruction project. And anybody just let me know from the team if you need me to pull something up at any time.
All right, thank you, Matthew. Well, thank you everyone for allowing us this time to present the project and post a question. Your opinion is very important to us as we're moving forward in this project. As Matt indicated below, we are there's a couple of people that are in the call now working with me. My name is Ruben. I'm the City of Rochester project manager for the project. We have with us also Tomas Andino, who's the project manager for the Ponteren Bridge project. I have also with us Dominic Fakid, who's the street design manager, and Kurt Eklund, who is working for Labella and is our design consultant. So Matt, if you could please share the PDF that I sent you that's called Browns Race Rehabilitation Alternatives. That will be very helpful.
Yep, give me 1 second and I will pull that up right now. Okay. And you said which one did you want, Brown? This first one?
Yes, number 1. So yeah, so the project is a rehabilitation project. It's not a total reconstruction. And this project is part of the Ponteren Bridge project, which is next to the Browns Race project, right there on the right in that corner on the northwest side of the screen. So part of the project, the goal of the project is rehabilitate this area because the pavers and the sidewalks have aged and they need to be replaced. The drainage system and it's been failing over the years. So due to all of that and to the major project that's going to take place on the bridge, the city has this project in place. And we are here today to try to gather input from the preservation board, since this is a preservation board district. And the question is in regards to the appropriateness and the materials that we're thinking to use for the, different perspective of maintenance, ADA benefits, streetscape, and all the things that go along with the area. As you can see in this PDF, we have different treatments that we are evaluating. For the blue or purple bluish area there, which is the pavers, there's currently pavers in the street, we are considering different things. There are remove and reset existing block pavers, new pavers, concrete or stone pavers. We have considered permeable pavers. We're also considering maybe concrete and asphalt. Preferences that the city has in regards to maintenance and future use, to avoid any future maintenance costs that could come, are a treatment that could be easily be maintained, but we also careful with what the public and the area will look like. So an advice for you and a perspective of what you think the appropriateness of material could be is one of the things where we're looking. Same thing for the sidewalk treatments alternatives. We have there on the kind of reddish pinkish there, the options and treatments that we're looking into are remove and reset existing pavers, and currently concrete pavers. So we have that option, and either new concrete pavers or some locations. And we're also thinking on for the maintenance perspective and ADA serviceability, concrete on the sidewalks, with or without any paver accents. Matt, if you could please share the number 3 PDF that I shared with you that shows currently existing conditions on the Browns Race area. As I mentioned before, all that the pavers are over 30 years plus old. You can see on the left side of your screen that sludge, the asphalt there is currently not there. It has peeled out. There is sludge drain that runs along the boulders and the exposed aggregate in that location that has failed in multiple locations. They have sink. And if you scroll down a little bit, you can see there the existing exposed aggregate and the sidewalks that are located kind of to the east side. They have the concrete board pattern. And again, the sludge drain is there and the pavers. So in our alternatives, in our project, we currently looking into replace the exposed aggregate, kind of like in kind, like to have it look the same. And we're exploring the treatments on the street and in the sidewalk. If you could please scroll down a little bit more.
Just want to clarify one thing there, Ruben.
Sure.
The concrete that you just saw in the previous photo is proposed to be maintained. We're not touching that. That goes above an old what is it, aqueduct, or a what's the term?
Mill race.
Yes, mill race. Thank you. We're not touching that section of sidewalk as part of this project.
Yep. Thank you, Dominic. Yep. We're not touching that. We're just focusing on where the exposed aggregate, the boulders, streetscape elements, lights, and yeah, like the pavers. Most of the pavers have crack. Currently don't have any stock of these to replace. So we're here now, like I indicated before, to seek some um, uh, advice from you guys on the materials. And obviously, we did some research, and zoning office has tried to help us. And on the information that I believe have been shared with you guys also, we couldn't find any reasons why the pavers were placed originally. So the record drawings that we have looked from 1991 is when the pavers went in. And all the information for the SECRA and other information of that project didn't show any reason why pavers were selected. So they have, like the Browns race used to run from Commercial Street all the way here. And then if you go over Furnace Street, if you scroll down maybe a little bit right there, you can see that's actually concrete. So so there's parts where the Browns race have concrete like these, and there's parts where like they use the pavers. So, and from a maintenance perspective, concrete is more durable and it can be easily maintained. You know, pavers over time have more susceptibility to have issues, and the maintenance can become costly. So that's mainly what we are here for. Dominic, I don't know if I missed anything you want to add.
Maybe just show a photo of the sidewalk that we're looking. Do you have a photo of the paver sidewalk in there?
Yeah, so if you, maybe number 4, you can pull number 4. Yeah, so these are just some examples and ideas. Our project is in a very preliminary stage. So we're just looking at concepts and ideas of what we want to propose. It will be a project will go public meeting. It has already a first public meeting where it was presented, but no concepts or information were presented. And it will have obviously a public meeting where the alternatives that we will choose will be presented. But here in this slide, you can see some of the stuff that we were thinking.
Ruben, I'm sorry, I was referring to the existing pavers. I don't know that you showed a photograph of the pavered sidewalks. I don't know if everyone on this.
Yeah, so if you go back to number 3, please. And you can go down below to perhaps page number 5. That document will show. Yeah, right there, you can see a little bit of the existing sidewalk areas. The one below shows a little more. Right there, you can see some of that sidewalk. So there's concrete sidewalk on Mill Street, and then once we tie it into Platt Street, there is concrete pavers on the sidewalk. So we were thinking to replace some of this with concrete, as these will be like locations where high pedestrian or pedestrian crossings are for ADA purposes and compliantness. We want to replace this with concrete, but we could explore some options on perhaps more accent self-exposed aggregate or combinations with that, you know.
If I could interrupt, can I ask you to show us what you're looking to replace the street pavers with?
Yeah, like I indicated before, we don't have anything at that stage yet. That's what we're trying to find, like educated option. Either they will be the pavers that are out there will replace some that are failed, or all with new. They will look very similar to what they currently look, or the other option will be concrete.
And it's
The
Gerald,
current-
can I ask, I'm sorry, Chris.
I was just going to ask, are the current ones stone?
They are stone pavers, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Yeah, so that was my question. So the current street pavers are stone, but the current sidewalk pavers are concrete.
Correct.
Okay.
This is Matt. I'm gonna jump in for a second to kind of tie in, I think Karsten's question and then maybe Gerald's as well. So the point of this, going back a step, was, as Ruben had mentioned, we attempted to locate why initially those pavers would have been in there. Was it connected to the historic, nature of it? Was it connected to a traffic calming measure? Was it connected to try to make it look more pedestrian friendly, to pedestrianize the area and keep cars not as prominent there? The answer to that question was never found. We thought we would have found it. It just wasn't there. So I think what the team on this call is looking for from the board would be to say something like, should a paver be maintained in there? Should it, would it take away from the fact if they did asphalt or concrete or something to that effect? Certainly the area is a local preservation district, so any private property would have to go through the preservation process. So the public rights of way are just as important, right? Or if not more important. So in anyone presenting, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the gist of it would be for the board's input based on their knowledge of the area, the private properties there, and how that impacts the right of way and what should be installed for that.
So Matt, in order to try to keep this as organized as possible, do you want me to call on each board member and kind of almost deliberate like we do in some cases?
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. And then that way each board member can provide their thoughts and their expertise based on that.
Yes,
Okay.
I agree, Chris. It's not like an up or down vote. We have a range of options, and just whatever you all have in terms of suggestions of principles for choosing among the options, or whether they should do some more investigation and find whatever it is, just some principles to guide them from in making their choices.
Okay. So, well, why don't we do it alphabetically, but we'll start with Kirsten Solberg and we'll go S up. So Kirsten,
Okay.
what are your thoughts?
So first, I'm going to assume that we're keeping this curbless. Is that correct? I'm going to assume so.
And if the
Kirsten, I
answer-
didn't understand your question. What is
There's
it?
currently no curb, like a granite curb. It's all
Flat, yes.
right. Okay. I feel strongly that the roadway should remain a paver, whether it's the reuse of the existing or something very similar. My impression is they were probably trying to replicate something similar to a cobblestone, a modern interpretation of a cobblestone. Visually, just from the photos, it looks like that's in better shape than the sidewalks to me. I think if they can be reused and reset, I would support that. Yeah, but I think that the scale of the cobblestone and the small paver is the most important element of the street. The sidewalk, I think that a regularly scaled sidewalk block, 4 foot by whatever it is, typically is just too common for that area. And I'm not sure what the alternative is. I mean, I like what's there now, relatively speaking, kind of the scored board pattern, just because it gives it an element of something, a degree up from your typical city street. And it makes it, the texture makes it very pedestrian friendly, and an understanding that this is your pedestrian scape and this is your roadscape. And I think that the median with the exposed aggregate is still appropriate. I don't love the brick. I think it's too close to the paver. I don't know if there's something in between. And I guess that's the area I would continue to explore. I'd like to hear what other people have to think.
Hey, thanks, Kirsten. Dave Matthews, what do you think?
Can I just clarify one thing? I just want to make sure, Kirsten, the boarded concrete patterning, we're not impacting at all by the project. So that's located on the west side,
Okay.
grounds race only. So-
Where would the brick go?
So can someone pull up maybe an aerial of the,
Yeah, I can do that, Dominic. Give me 1 second.
Is
okay.
that to delineate pedestrian crossing? Is that what you had said?
The brick surrounds the entire street except for just the west side of Browns Race. If we can pull up or even the graphic aerial probably should do fine.
You can do aerial, or if you want me to jump onto street view, let me know.
Okay, so I don't know if you want to straighten the street out so it's like going left, right, then I can use my bearings a little better here.
I think the drawing was this way. Oops. So this is Lake Avenue's here. This is Mill.
Mhm.
And then this
State
is-
Street, yeah.
Or State Street, excuse me. Yeah.
So on
Area under review here.
on the left is the Ponteren Bridge. That whole bridge, as well as the parklet there, is all being rebuilt or rehabilitated. And then the Browns Race piece, the sidewalk where you see those little brown tree pits or planters, that's all the boarded concrete
Mhm.
that is going to remain. I don't know about directly in front of the bridge approach there, but definitely in front of the buildings. And then the brick is on the other side of the street, and it wraps fully around.
The block.
Yep, all the way. It's not brick, I'm sorry, concrete pavers, so it's all around there. And then on Furnace Street, it is across the street, up against the building. And same thing on Platt Street. And then if you go, maybe you go to Street View, drop right down on Furnace. If you could, Matt, you can get a better look.
Hmm.
Better, I think.
Okay.
So one of the options we were considering was maybe expanding the exposed aggregate surface treatment that you see there. Maybe to encompass like the light poles, the planter, and then possibly even adding that feature along the building face, like where the benches or the air conditioning units. So you're kind of bordered with the exposed aggregate on each side of you. And then the walking surface would be a concrete material. We could do certain scoring patterns or, a certain kind of broom finish to make it not look so typical. Like any other concrete sidewalk you would see in the city, there's definitely different finishes you can put on them.
Yeah, Matt, actually,
These pavers, they heave all the time. They're really a maintenance nightmare, and the amount of money it costs to reset them or replace them, and the cost benefit, just our preference would be concrete.
Or the street.
on the walking, on the street, on the sidewalk.
Sidewalks, yes, I'm talking
You're
about.
saying the brick pavers you want to replace.
Our preference for the sidewalk brick pavers would be concrete, yes.
To the right of the garbage can, if you will. You would prefer that to be concrete.
Well, where the garbage can is, that's exposed aggregate concrete.
Right.
That
But to
would
the
be-
right of that is what you're talking about.
Yes, and then, but we could do exposed aggregate along the building face as like an accent. So you keep the walking path as I'll call it plain concrete, And then the bordered by exposed aggregate. That's just one option that we considered. But certainly, we're open to any suggestions.
Yes, and like we talked about scoring patterns and different size of for that concrete on the sidewalk. And I think there's some pictures on the PDF number 4, page 5, math, where we have.
Can you see that PDF now? Did it switch over?
No,
No.
You're still on the Google. All right, hold on one second. Try this here. Okay, this is PDF 4.
Page number 4. Yeah, that one right there. That's yeah. That one has a coding pattern that we were thinking. The one above, page number 4. Yeah, that one. Maybe if you could zoom in a little bit.
Not real
Yes,
clear.
that one. That was an option.
So this looks like it's on Mount Hope in College Town.
Can
yeah,
I add one more comment? If you're going to do a concrete, I would think a lot of these historic sidewalks traditionally had slate. So more of the scale of what that slate stone would be, which is more of a, it's kind of what's across the way, and not more of a board, but more of a, what I'm saying? Not square, but kind of a slate scale. A lot of them had brick on either side and then the slate that ran down the middle. Maybe just looking at more historic sidewalks as a precedent.
in the spirit of keeping things moving, it's 25 to 6. Can we ask Dave Matthews his opinion, please?
Sure. Yeah, I think the thing that was a little hard to grasp was the different materials. So, Dominic, I think I kind of agree if you stayed with the concrete on the sidewalk and maybe picture frame some area, the areas, and then with the aggregate and it's smooth in the middle, and some continuity, and keeping the stone pavers in the street. I think taking one of the materials out of there might help just to simplify it a little bit more. And having the 3 materials or four different materials, it just and then where do they belong and what are the setting up some rules of why each material is in each place, at least from a design sense, it might help maybe the decision process along a little bit. So I'll kind of leave it at that. Thanks.
Thanks, Dave. Hey, Gerald, your thoughts, please.
Yeah, so my thoughts, I guess, build on Dave's thoughts and Kirsten's thoughts, where I worry too that there are too many materials at play here. So given that you're asking us for our judgment, I agree with Kirsten in terms of the stone pavers in the street. I suspect that they were chosen to recall the history of the district and to say to people when they showed up, you've arrived somewhere special. That these cobblestone-like granite, probably pavers, really announce that this is a special district in the city. So I would favor keeping those stone pavers or some other stone paver, and if possible, extending it into more streets in the district. I also agree with Dave that I worry about there being too many materials at play. So I would maybe consider for the sidewalks, just do an exposed aggregate and not having bricks and not having concrete pavers and not scoring and not coloring, but just having exposed aggregate sidewalks and granite pavers. I do think that at least for me, if I were voting, and I understand we're just offering guidance, I don't like concrete pavers. I don't think they're appropriate in historic districts. I think in the 80s and 90s, there was a lot of use of them, but I think we've come to appreciate in 2021 that concrete pavers are simply pavers that are made to look like brick or like stone. So if you want to use a concrete paver, I would say don't use it. Either use stone or use brick. And same with the concrete on the sidewalks. If you want to use concrete, use it as an honest material. Don't color it. Don't score it in ways to make it look like stone. Just use concrete. And so I would recommend not using any concrete pavers at all. I would recommend not scoring the sidewalks at all, except to have expansion joints. And the materials I like the best are the stone blocks for the street and exposed aggregate for the sidewalks. And I've now spoken enough.
Thank you. I guess I'm next alphabetically. I would agree 100% that the granite stone paver should stay in the street. I think why it's so confusing visually now is because everything's in such bad condition. I think if it were in better condition 30 years ago, it had a much different look to it. I'm not sure if I would want that something that simple on the sidewalk. Maybe go back to the board pattern, like on the western side. That might look a little bit more interesting and a little bit more historic, but I would be very careful not to get away from the historic feel of the place that's there now, because it is a very special place. Ed Kane.
Well, to keep things moving along, since we are getting late on time here, I'll second what you said, Chris.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Matt, back to you.
Okay, any last minute questions, comments, concerns? Thank you to everyone here.
Could I just ask one thing with regard to the parklet on next to the Ponteren Bridge? You'll be coming, so that you mentioned that there'll be some modifications to that. And that is not in the right of way. And so we'll need you to come for a certificate of appropriateness for that work. At least as I understand it, unless I'm misunderstanding the map and that's all part of the right of way.
I can check, Tom.
Yeah,
But it looks to me like it's, they call it Granite Mill Commons, and that it's 82 Mills Race, and that is its own property and not part of the right of way.
Yeah, it's a privately held property owned by the city, correct?
Yeah.
Yep. So we're actually in the conceptual design stage right now. So
Yeah.
We'll in the future be presenting that to the board.
Good. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure, yeah, we're clear on that.
Okay, very good. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the presentation and sending me the materials, and to be continued, I guess, then.
Matt?
Thank you, everyone, for your input. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
thank you.
Matt, could I make a proposal for like the ordering of the agenda? And that would be that we go to pre-meeting on the C of A items for now. And then maybe we could come back to 39 State Street at the end of the meeting. Would that work?
I can do that if everyone's fine with it. It doesn't matter to me. I think 39 State Street.
Good idea.
More quickly than what we just did, but certainly.
I just hate to, leave us with not enough time to cover the items.
Absolutely.
Beforehand.
I can do that. If everyone's okay with that, we'll move into the cases. Of note, there is one change, last minute change. Case number 987 East Avenue is actually going to be heard last tonight, which doesn't impact anything because if anyone showed up to listen to it, they will have heard it. It's not like it went the other way. So the applicant had a last minute surgery to do, and they feel that they'll be available at the end. So we'll hear that last during the hearing portion, but we'll start with that right now and going over the cases. Before we do that, I'm just going to run through each of the cases and ask about board member site visits just to get those out of the way. So for case number 1, which is a holdover from last month, are there any board members present tonight that did not visit the site? Just let me know now. Okay, very good. Case number 2 is 2 Menlo Place. Any board members present not visit the site? Very good. Case number 3 is 34 Vic Park B. Any board members not visit? Case number 4, 657 East Avenue. Any members not visit the site? Everyone here visited. Case 5, 7 Arnold Park. Any board members not visit the site? And case 6, 208 Mill Street. Anyone present not visit the site? Okay, very good. And there was an original agenda that had a case 7, but it was removed and updated on the website for the Strathallan Park property that will not be heard tonight. So we'll get started with going over the cases now. Case number 1, any additional comments, questions? This came last month for some work to the building, and the board requested a hold for some additional information, which is included in your packets. Any questions on this one?
Matt, I did not get a chance to review the previous
Okay.
meeting. So if I need to abstain on that one, that's fine.
Okay.
Apologize.
No, that's all right. Thank you for letting me know. So I believe we have
If you-
a quorum. So we have a quorum. So there are 4 board members that can vote on that return case tonight. Case number 2 is a new case, but it's a familiar property. Property owner was here last month for some windows on the first floor, and there was discussion during deliberations that the applicant heard about the upper floors, which she had also mentioned during her presentation. And she decided she wanted to move on that. So this is a new case. It's not connected to the case last month. Any questions on 2 Menlo Place?
Just as reference, does anybody know if Appella or Anderson windows were approved for the first floor? That's what they're proposing for the upper floors. I just wanted to know for like continuity sake, if anybody recalls.
You're asking which brand was approved?
Yeah, or was there an approval on any brand, either brand, I guess?
I believe I'm going to pull up the decision. There was one condition. The condition for the proposal for the first floor had to be 1/1. And then I believe it was either brand. Let me just verify that.
Or if that's something we could bring up during the deliberation.
Yeah, you could certainly discuss that for continuity for the upper floors.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't wait till deliberation. I'd ask like during question time, just because the applicant, of course, will know.
Yeah, no, there wasn't. I would, but check with the applicant. The condition was all new windows shall be, this was for the first floor, shall be double hung windows, and all windows shall be 1 light over 1 light. So.
And are we clear on what the composition of the windows is going to be, or was on the prior approval? You all know
They
that.
were, I'd have to pull up the application, but they were wood windows cladded with, I'd have to look for the previous one, but we can talk about it tonight at the hearing for this one.
Okay. Thanks.
Case number 3. This case came a little over 3 years ago now, actually. It was a hold case, and the board had imposed a deadline to come back, which was now about 3.5 years ago. It's in the staff report described. So I did include the hold letter just for reference for what was discussed, and then the applicant has provided the new information here. Any questions on this one? Okay, case number 4 is 657 East Avenue. This is the Rochester Museum and Science Center sign. Any questions on this one? One of the things I want to note with this one, and Tom Worth or Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong, but because they are before the board has the authority to impose conditions regarding the functioning of the sign. The sign can legally only contain messages for events happening on the property, as it's not a billboard. And in terms of functioning, things I'm referring to are blinking, rotating, things like that, like attention-seeking aspects of the sign. So the board, as part of their discussions, I just want to make a point of reference of saying that.
Yeah, I think that was my only concern is if it's changing constantly, it's kind of a distraction from driving. But if they're changing it every half hour or once a day or something, that's a whole different criteria.
So typically these things end up with the zoning board, and I can say with some certainty that any digital sign that has been approved, not all have, but the ones that have all had conditions imposed on them. They can't change message more than X number of minutes, hours.
Yeah, I
whatever.
think it's 10 seconds is the standard, right?
For the billboards, for the some of the churches and stuff that have gotten them, they've been longer. But the board has also imposed conditions around no blinking, no rotating, attention seeking style of things. So that can certainly be discussed as part of this one.
So Matt, the reasoning here that this is not also going to the preservation or to the zoning board for an area variance for digital signs is that we'll handle this as an alternative sign program?
Correct. So the code allows the preservation board to review alternative sign programs within preservation districts. And what that does is it allows the applicant to make the application for a something different outside of what the code allows. So in this case, this digital message sign, which then it eliminates the need for the applicant to go to the zoning board, but the preservation board has that authority over the functioning of it, just as the zoning board would. Next case is number 57 Arnold Park. Any questions on this one?
I wanted to ask about the existing windows that they wanted to replace. I didn't really see a lot of description. I mean, I know they're not original, but did you see, did I miss anything about the more description about the existing windows? I mean, you could only see so much from the street, obviously.
They included, hold on. I want to check one thing before I say this. I thought they included no, I believe everything. No, I believe everything is here. Chris, I would advise you to get that as oral testimony during the hearing.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
In the last case, back to Brown's Race, is 208 Mill Street, an existing building that is attempting to change the use of an office to a dwelling unit, but needs an egress door landing. Any questions on this one?
I just had a question. I mean, they had a stair coming down into a parking space that seemingly from the plans showed that parking space was going to remain. In front of the stair was a kind of a striped area that was not a parking space. Were they intending to remove the space that the stair comes down into? Or if not, maybe the stair configuration and it's, the egress needs to go into the space that's not being striped off. And, it was kind of head scratcher for me. Like, you don't have enough room to come down the stairs, and if there's a car there, so that.
Yeah, certainly ask that on the record, please. It's a great question. I do not believe the striped parking stall corresponds with like an ADA space. I don't think it's the extra space for that. I think it's just a hashed off space. But certainly ask that question. From a zoning standpoint, they can eliminate a parking space. There's no off-street parking requirement in this particular zoning district. So the elimination of one or all of the parking spaces does not trigger a I guess I should say the parking spaces aren't there as a result of the zoning code requiring it. It's the applicant wanting it. So, but certainly ask that question that you asked to the applicant.
The site plan says compact car only on either side of the stair, which implies that there will be signage to indicate that there will be compact cars only.
Well, they're striping off a spot that's not even going to be used by pedestrians, and they're not striping off the spot that will be used by pedestrians as you come down the stairs. So
it's odd.
Seems backwards to me. But
It doesn't seem legal.
Anything else on 208 Mill? Okay, very good. Do you want to break until we start the hearing, or do you want to talk about 39 State?
Let's break.
Okay, very good. So this will conclude the pre-meeting, and we will start at 6 p.m. with the public hearing portion.